It is only day one, and it's not time to panic, but the Chargers underwhelmed on day one of free agency, and it's really hard to see what their vision is right now on the offensive line.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Droegemeier, and we've been covering the Chargers now for 10 seasons, but this is our 8th year as a host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day as part of the #1 sports podcast network. David, hard to know how to totally feel right now about day one of free agency.
Had all this money for another year in a row and wasn't able to make any moves that made you feel like they were heading in the right direction.
Yeah, I don't think there's been a needle moving move at this point yet. So we're going to talk about the only real, substantial offensive line addition on day one, which is Cole Strange. Obviously familiar with Mike McDaniel, but how much does that get you, right? Chargers bring back Trevor Penning. We will talk about Charlie Kolar, and I do like that move. Like the Charlie Kolar move, I'm here for. I understand the vision there. And then we'll talk about the Chargers potentially being in on Alec Pierce and maybe even outbidding the Colts for Alec Pierce, which seems kind of crazy considering their lack of aggressiveness in other areas. And then a move that would make us feel a lot better if they did it, and what's kind of available still left on the offensive line after day one. So a lot to get into. But it has to start with Cole Strange, David. Obviously not the apple that most fans were hoping to see when the Chargers had the amount of cap space that they have. Now, let me say this. Really like the Tyler Biadasz signing, and that looked better and better as the deal started going through on free agency, right? Like that move, when you see Tyler Linderbaum making $27 million, that it doesn't feel bad to get, Tyler Biadasz for $10 million per season. Like that has aged really, really well. But unfortunately, with the, near $80 million still in cap space, with the obvious needs at both guard spots aside, on the sides of Tyler Biadasz with Zion Johnson now gone, the only substantial move that the Chargers made was for Cole Strange, who was the right guard for Mike McDaniel last season. And the contract isn't huge, but at this point, it feels like it's enough to say that they're playing at right guard right now. And if that is the plan right now at right guard, it's hard to have a lot of faith in it.
Yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I'm going to be part of it, but it's not a needle mover. It doesn't make me feel like, okay, now they got somebody that's going. It just was something where I felt like, okay, well, obviously he played for Mike McDaniel last year, and Mike McDaniel said, okay, well, this is a guy I feel like we have to have in our offense. But when you look at the numbers and you look at the production,
Yeah, I think that, it's hard not to overreact again. And I'll take over here for a second. But just looking at the numbers, right? I mean, obviously you had Mekhi Becton at right guard last season. So finding someone better than that, it should not be very hard. And yet they signed someone, and you still kind of feel like, okay, well, you lost Zion Johnson on day one. You don't feel like you got anyone better than him on day one in free agency, and I get it. I mean, he's a guy that started 14 games for Mike McDaniel's offense with Butch Barry as his coach last year in Miami. But we're also talking about someone that, according to, here's from Chris Rem, the ESPN Analytics, Mekhi Becton was 17th in pass block win rate, which seems crazy. Cole Strange, 26th, also had is only slightly better in run block win rate as well. So that doesn't make you feel great, because obviously Mekhi Becton wasn't great in that department last year. He graded out pretty poorly, and also, has missed a ton of time due to injury. Missed all but 2 games in 2024 due to a patella tendon tear, obviously what Rashawn Slater is trying to come back from right now, and has never played 1,000 snaps in a season. So that injury happened in 2023. It cost him to miss all but the last 2 or 3 weeks of 2024, and then in 2025, he was with the Miami Dolphins. Now, what I will say is he was 27th out of 62 in guards as far as pass blocking efficiency, 46th in pressures allowed, which is good, right? I mean, the lower down you are on that list, the better. 16 less pressures than Mekhi Becton allowed last year and 13 more pass blocking snaps. So the Dolphins did a lot more to protect their offensive line, so you have to factor that part of it in. But again, like I think the biggest thing here is just like the familiarity is only worth so much. I mean, he's a guy that was not in Daniel Popper's top 150 available free agents. And the contract is this: 2 years, $13 million, and according to Daniel Popper, $9 million in guaranteed. So it's not like full-blown starter money, but when that's the only move you really make on the offensive line and you are guaranteeing him almost $10 million, it's hard to think, okay, well, right now this guy isn't the starting right guard.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now he is the starting right guard, which does not, make you feel very comfortable. It doesn't make you feel very confident in what the vision is and what they're trying to do, because there's still a lot of issues that they need to fix. They still need to get another guard spot. They still need to fill out the depth on this football team, Daniel. Like, there's still a lot of work to be done, and I think when you're looking at this and you're talking about those stats that you brought up from Chris Romo, I was going to bring up the same ones. It doesn't feel like this is an upgrade, but also, if this is a guy that Mike McDaniel says is going to fit better in his offense and, to work with what they're trying to do, then maybe, they'll be able to get better production and better value out of him here with the Chargers.
The thing is it just didn't feel like it was a huge priority for the Chargers. And we'll talk about later some of the guys that got away because of some of the other deals that happened for guys like Isaac Suamalu, guys like David Edwards, obviously, who Chargers fans were high on, right? And even like Zion Johnson. Like, after day one, with like who's still available, it just feels like it's like, okay, how could this not have been the number one priority, right? Like, how could you have not found a deal to be made here and show the urgency to make sure you come away with a starting caliber guard on day one of free agency? Because the starting caliber guards are dwindling quickly, right? Like, the market is moving fast on that. And
seemed
you end
obvious
up with Cole Strange. And the thing is, yeah, okay, sure, he could play better. He had the same coaching staff last year. He had the same offensive coordinator last year in Miami, right? So it's not like you're going to potentially get more out of him than the guys who were coaching him last year. You have those guys, right? The same guys who had him being, graded efficiency-wise as one of the worst guards in the NFL last season. And that is kind of the star of your offensive line signings on day one. It's just hard to not, to think this is a priority, or to think things have changed, or that you've learned your lesson, that you weren't willing to go and get someone better than Cole Strange, even if Mike McDaniel really likes him. Like, the numbers are the numbers. He's either good or he's not. Didn't feel like he was a good player based on what he did last year. Has major injury red flags, and it's hard to feel great about it. We'll see what they do. Now, if he's competing with a high drafted rookie and you figure out left guard, maybe you feel better about it. But the Chargers did make one other move, re-signing, I should say, Trevor Penning. This is one I talked about before free agency, started, because of how many bodies they just have to add to that room. Per Aaron Wilson, 1 year, $3.5 million, 1.25 in signing bonus, and nothing to, really move the needle for you. I'm fine with Trevor Penning coming back as a depth piece, which is what it seems like this contract indicates.
Yeah, and not only as a depth piece, but as a depth piece at guard specifically. I don't really have any interest in him playing tackle again, or being a swing tackle. Yeah, he has that flexibility. That's fine. But yeah, this is definitely your guy you're bringing in to play guard, and hopefully that's really all he is. Because as a pass protector, he was very up and down, very much down. A lot more penalties in that phase. Yeah. But as a run blocker, he's nasty, and he brings that physicality, and he's a people mover, and he is, going to be an asset in that particular facet of the game. And so with that, with that being said, with the money and kind of how he's going to fit in, I don't mind this at all.
Yeah, and I mean, you traded a 2027 6th-round pick for him, right? So you're kind of keeping some part of that investment that you made in him after having someone like Odafe Owe leave in free agency after sending a 5th-round pick for him, right? And we'll talk about that more on the bonus show later. But I do think Trevor Penning specifically can be a nice weapon for your offensive line as a depth piece, which I think he's a fine backup guard. but more importantly, I think as an extra offensive lineman, getting him out on the field, I think gives you a huge advantage as a sixth offensive lineman if you want to go heavy packages. And he was really nasty when they did that with him last year. So it's not a huge sign, doesn't move the needle, but I don't mind this one because the thing is, yes, he's a great run blocker, right? Maybe Cole Strange is obviously a better run blocker than he is as a pass protector, but it's like, okay, I get it. You want the run game to be good. I've seen this strategy. Is this just what Jim Harbaugh wants, right? Like, we'll just have a good running game and that's going to protect Justin Herbert, because that hasn't worked the last 2 years, including the guy we're going to talk about next.
Nor has it been good either.
High on and Charlie Kolar, because I do like that signing. I do think there's some untapped potential there. So we're going to talk about that, get a little bit of a lighter note and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient, sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth and wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to TurboTax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment. David, time to move on to the free agent signing I liked the most on day one, and that was the Chargers going and getting Ravens tight end Charlie Kolar, who I looked more into after we had Daniel Popper on the show last week, and he seemed really high on the fit for Charlie Kolar, the Kolar Bear on the Chargers, and the Chargers go and get that done and pay him an amount of money that shows you how much they wanted to get that deal done. This was a signing I liked. I know a lot of people are going to look at the receiving stats and it's not going to woo anyone, but I think for what they want him for and how he pairs with Oronde Gadsden, I like the move.
Yeah, I think this is a guy that fits in very nicely with what the Chargers are trying to do with their tight end room, with the new kind of body styles that they're trying to have to make up that room, right? I think, you have your primary pass catching tight end with Oronde Gadsden, and now you have somebody who is going to replace Will Dissly and be more in the mold of what they want from their move tight end, from their guy that's going to be able to get out to the second level, be able to climb, be able to, be that athletic lead blocker that has some pass catching upside. I mean, he was behind a couple of really, really good tight ends over there in Baltimore, so he wasn't really used in the receiving facet very often, but he was very much heavily involved in the running game as a run blocker, had a 71.5 run block grade this past season, and, that's something when you put on the tape, he does play with some physicality as well, but I think this is a move to me that made a lot of sense before it was announced, and then after it was announced was like, yep, that makes a lot of sense. I think this is something that where he's going to be able to show and bring what he does to the table and maybe have opportunities to show what he can do a little bit more as a pass catcher as well.
Of course. I mean, I don't think you give him that amount of money. I saw it kind of labeled as, the highest paid blocking tight end in the league. I mean, per Aaron Wilson, the Chargers 3-year deal for Charlie Kolar, $24.3 million, $17 million guaranteed, $7 million signing bonus, with some incentives in it as well. But I don't think you sign him to $24 million unless you think there is some untapped potential as a pass catcher. Like, I just think that it's too much to pay for someone who is bringing what Will Dissly brought to the table, right, as just a blocking tight end. You're not expecting him to catch a ton of passes. But I do think as far as the fit goes with him and Oronde Gadsden, now you have like a really, really good pairing for the next 3 seasons now that you have both of these guys under contract through the 2028 season, right? So like you have your Y tight end, the guy who can split out, the guy that can create the mismatches with Oronde Gadsden, who just had the most receiving yards by any rookie tight end in Chargers history. Crazy. And now you have a guy that can do the rest of those things. So now you don't have to ask Oronde Gadsden to do too much. You don't have to get him out of his comfort zone and have him trying to go hit these blocks that he's just not capable of doing right now. Now, he will have to do some blocking, and there has to be some deception in it where that just because Oronde Gadsden's on the field doesn't mean it's an automatic pass. So he'll still have to take that next step. But I think what Charlie Kolar brings to the table specifically is the guy that you can pair with him in 2 tight end sets that can do the dirty work, that is athletic enough to go hit those, targets at the second level to help spring some of these runs. And that's the thing. I really like what the Chargers are building as far as how they plan on improving their running game. Getting Alec Ingold, getting Charlie Kolar, who was not a Mike McDaniel guy, but was a Joe Ortiz guy because he was the one that was part of drafting him in his time with the Baltimore Ravens.
A lot of athletic blockers there, along with Trey Harris as well, Daniel. I think that they really have something going in that aspect of it.
Totally. I feel really good about that part of it. And also in pass protection, this is a guy that is really good as well. So he does help you in that regard too. You can use him as an extra blocker. You can use him to help set up some play action shots down the field. Him and Alec Ingold both did that, right? So that is part of it. Now, do I want offensive linemen to be the one that are protecting Justin Herbert? Sure. We'll get more into that. But I think as far as what they're planning to do with their running game and how they plan on improving their running game, I'm bought into it as far as, some of these additions that they made, especially with Alec Ingold, especially with Charlie Kolar. I think Charlie Kolar could very much outplay the contract that he signed, right? So that is why that is a signing that I'm high on. I really like the move to get Charlie Kolar. I think he's going to be a really great fit from just what I've watched of him, what I've watched of this Mike McDaniel offense. You need a guy like Charlie Kolar to make it all work and be the kind of straw that stirs the drink. He brings everything you need from that aspect, and I think can bring, especially with someone scheming him open now, more as a pass catcher now that he's not behind 2 guys who are making $13+ million, and Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely, who just got a big deal with the Giants. So I like this fit a lot. There was an interesting kind of wrinkle into the free agency mix on day one, especially for the Chargers and their lack of big moves. Well, according to the reports out there, they wanted to make a big move because they were reportedly one of the teams that was in on the Colts, Alec Pierce, who got a last-minute deal done with the Colts and ended up returning to Indianapolis. But, David, according to Benjamin Albright, there's a post saying, that Alec Pierce went back to the Colts even though a team offered him more money. And then Benjamin Albright, who's an NFL insider, quote tweets that and says, the Chargers. That's crazy. That is if the Chargers are willing to pay Alec Pierce $30 million a year because he ended up making $28.5 million per season. If the Chargers were really in on that, that is just insane. And I mean, maybe, that was the move that they thought would kind of salvage this day one.
It wouldn't salvage it for me because it makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense to want to throw that much money at a field stretcher that it doesn't matter. It doesn't feel like it's going to improve the football team. The only thing that you should be investing that substantial amount of money on is protection for the offensive line, for your quarterback. That's what you should be spending. And we know that Joe Ortiz said, you can get him weapons and weapons are going to help too. How about getting him an offensive line? That would really help. Getting him protection so he can actually use the weapons that he has at his disposal. We've seen it time and time again, Daniel. When you just give him an extra second and you don't have the pocket collapsing in on him immediately, the things that he's able to do, and he does them at a higher level and a more elite level than pretty much any quarterback in the league. He's able to make the off-script plays, but what if he didn't have to? Imagine how effective an offense would be with Justin Herbert, with an offensive line that lets him actually operate the offense.
I mean, that's the thing. Alec Pierce, in theory, would be a great fit for what the Chargers want to do. And would be a great fit with Justin Herbert's big arm and would be the best deep threat that he's ever had. And it's not particularly close as far as a field stretching type of guy. That being said, $30 million, $28.5 million is an overpay for Alec Pierce, a guy who's had one barely big over 1,000-yard season. And I know the quarterback play there hasn't been good, and that has to play a huge part in it. And I think that Alec Pierce is a good receiver. $30 million a season is top 10 receiver in the NFL money. That's where kind of the disconnect comes from me, where it's you're telling me you're willing to grossly overpay for a wide receiver that you don't, that wasn't on your team, and you're just projecting could be really good in your offense, but you're not willing to overpay an offensive lineman to potentially be, very good as opposed to being elite, but giving him elite type of money. That's the kind of where my disconnect is. And then the more we get into it, it's hard not to kind of take Joe Ortiz's comments at face value when he's telling you there's other ways to protect Justin Herbert. Alec Pierce doesn't protect Justin Herbert, right? Like,
Nope.
It's great to have someone like that. You have to have the offensive line that can actually let you throw it to him 60 yards down the field, which is a big part of the problem last year, was you couldn't hit those intermediate to deeper routes because Justin Herbert was running for his life immediately after the snap. That's the problem. I don't care, trying to add more weapons to this offense, awesome, right? Like, the more the better. You can, I'd love to see the Chargers have one of the elite offenses in the NFL. You get Alec Pierce, you're one step closer to doing that. But doing it at the expense of potentially, or getting outbid on some of the offensive linemen that were available, that is the part that's hard for me to kind of wrap my brain around at the moment. And part of the part that's been so frustrating is just one day into free agency. Again, I don't think it's totally time to panic. It's just hard to see the vision right now when the Chargers kind of showed you where their priorities were at the very least on day one of free agency. Now, there is one move that'll make me feel a lot better about this situation, and it's a guy that, as of the time we're recording this live show, is still available, and that is the Packers' Elgton Jenkins. If you get him tomorrow, now we might be cooking. We're going to talk about that and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. First, though, I need to tell you guys about FanDuel, because right now, college basketball is the absolute best thing that you could be watching, and it's only going to get crazier because it is nonstop big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. From early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, there's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into an even bigger payout with college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay that you want, rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever fits, and you can mix spreads, totals, and player props to match how you see the slate playing out. We know that it's about to be craziness. So many games, one of the best times to bet on sports of the season. So you can go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style, now with even more upside behind it. If you guys want to get involved, make sure to head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. All right, David, well, we still have some more to get into here because the Chargers obviously still have a lot of time left before that we can, put the wraps on this free agency period. And there's still time to kind of rectify maybe the underwhelming start that they've gotten off to, right? And I think, to me, there's one that makes the most sense. The Packers re-signed the center who took over for Elgton Jenkins last year, Sean Ryan, to a 3-year deal worth $33 million, meaning they ended up releasing a player in Elgton Jenkins who has been a really, really good offensive lineman for a long time. And I think the reason this one makes so much sense, David, is because he is from a Shanahan-rooted system, right? You're coming from Matt LaFleur, obviously, in Green Bay, who was under Sean McVay, who was with Kyle Shanahan, runs a similar offense, so the fit is there. And also a good chance you kind of bet big on someone playing a different position, because last year at center, he wasn't great. If you wanted him as your center, I wouldn't be as in on him. Now, what we've seen from him at his time at left guard in the NFL, he has been an elite left guard. That guy is still available, and with the way that day one played out, to me, hey, I'm all in. Go get Elgton Jenkins because things are drying up quickly. You get him, I feel a lot better about the situation.
Yes, absolutely. This is the move here when looking at available options. This is the guy that makes the most sense, that makes you feel good, that would get you excited about providing quality protection for Justin Herbert. Obviously, looking at center last year, not the position you're looking at, but the 3 years before that, he played left guard and had a pass block grade of 67, 81, and 83, where he gave up 3 sacks, 0 sacks, and 0 sacks, and 23 or less pressures in all 3 of those seasons. So we're talking about a high-quality player who is also an effective run blocker as well. I just think, like, this to me right here, this is the guy that fits the mold of the move that's going to make sense. Also a guy that got cut, so it doesn't affect the comp pick formula. That's another thing that seems to be very important to Joe Ortiz with the moves that he has been made. But this has to happen. To me, I think this is one of the last guys available in free agency, and I think that's crazy to say that. But the guards are absolutely going very, very quickly. And this, to me, is the guy that you have to get this one done.
Yeah, I think it just kind of like this one moves the needle. You get him, that moves the needle for me because now you're looking at a left side of the offensive line that gets Rashawn Slater back, that gets a guy who's, a Pro Bowl level left guard next to a guy in Tyler Biadasz at center who will be a huge upgrade over what they had last year in Bradley Bozeman. Now you're looking at a left side that I can feel pretty good about. And I understand There are some injury issues as well with Elgton Jenkins, obviously coming off of a season-ending injury last season. But the 5 of the 6 seasons before that, he played at least 960 snaps. I can get behind that. I will take that chance for someone that can give you the upside that he brings to the table, especially because you don't have a left guard right now because Zion Johnson is a Cleveland Brown, which we'll talk about later on the bonus show. But yeah, he was an excellent pass protector. That is what I want. I want Justin Herbert protected in 2024, right when he was playing left guard, 564 pass blocking snaps, and he only allowed 18 pressures. Like, that is what I'm looking for. That is someone that is going to, actually give Justin Herbert the time to do what he needs to do. Because you get him, and then you have Rashawn Slater, and you have Biotish, and you have Charlie Kolar helping out. You have Alec Ingold helping out pass protection. Maybe you have, a rookie right guard that's competing with Cole Strange, and you have Joe Alt at right tackle. I can get behind that because to me, that looks like a substantial upgrade over what you went into the season before the injuries that you had last season. And you have guys, at least in Elgton Jenkins' case, where you're not just trying to sign him based off one good season. This guy has stacked several good seasons at left guard under his belt. So hopefully the Chargers will be aggressive to go get him. Again, you said the comp pick formula. Like, if I have to hear about the comp pick formula at the expense of Justin Herbert's health, like, it's going to drive me crazy. And I think the thing that made the first day so hard, David, is I don't think the guard market was as high as people expected. So you start seeing some of these deals and the guys who got away, and each one you're looking at it like, I would have given him that deal. I would have given him that deal. And I think that's kind of adding insult to injury in this case.
It really is, because I think the next guy available out there that made me really upset, because this feels like a deal that the Chargers should have done easily, and I would have been fine with them paying him even more than what he got, was David Edwards. 4 years, $61 million, $15.25 million per year. That's a huge, big upgrade over what you had with Zion Johnson. This guy had over 4,400 snaps at left guard in his career. 69 run block grade, 73 pass block grade, and that's pretty much consistent almost every single year. He's just a rock solid player, and like those are the type of guys that are going to improve your offensive line. You don't hear a lot, of these guys that's because they go do their job and they don't make a lot of noise, but that's fine. These are the type of players that improve your offensive line. David Edwards was definitely one of those guys to me that got away.
Yeah, I would have done that. I mean, that's less than what Zion Johnson ended up getting, right? Like, and the Chargers couldn't find a way to get that done. Like, it just feels like they misjudged the market here. Like, maybe they just didn't want him. Maybe they didn't think he was a fit. Obviously, he was part of a very successful rushing attack last year with James Cook at running back. And him and Connor McGovern helped Josh Allen have one of the best pass protecting offensive lines in the entire NFL. And that wasn't good enough for you to, I mean, like, I get if you don't want to give him 20 mil, he signed for 15 million. Like, this isn't the Aaron Banks deal. This isn't the Will Fries deal, right? Like, these guys were at a much more reasonable rate last year. I understand those guys went crazy and made so much, and all those seemed like gross overpays. It didn't feel like that this year, and that's what's so tough about it. And then you have a guy from the Steelers, and Isaac Suamalo, who gets 3 years, $31.5 million. We couldn't have found 11 million to make it work, right? Like,
well, and there are reports out there apparently they didn't even offer him at all.
And that's all, again, scheme fit. Like, to give me a chance on, someone who's not as great of a scheme fit coming in, who's been a really good player, as opposed to someone like a Cole Strange, who is a scheme fit in your eyes, has familiarity with the system, but might just not be a good player. Like, at some point, you just need better players. Like, we tried to make the excuses for Bradley Bozeman and said, hey, he was better with Greg Roman. He was better at this, better at that. And they ended up just not being a good player. Like, Mekhi Becton, the exact opposite. Hey, feels like a scheme fit, but was, grossly overachieving on one of the best lines in the NFL with the Eagles. Yeah, like, and that goes and blows up in your face because you waited, and that was kind of the guy who was left at the end, a weekend of free agency or more than a weekend of free agency. Like, even Elijah Vera Tucker, that one I don't have as much of a problem with. Him getting 3 years, $42 million.
With the injury history he had,
if you're the Chargers, I mean, I understand not being in on that one. But also, he's the guy that had the highest upside of any of the guards in this class, honestly. Like, he is probably the most talented guy that's out there as far as guys that you could get and, have a huge upgrade. Now, he's had 3 season-ending injuries in 5 seasons, right? Yeah. So, like, I understand you're the Chargers. You're already cursed. You don't need I wish I could credit who said it. Someone said he was the Jason Verrett of offensive linemen, where it's like, yeah, I mean, that's what it feels like if you're that, hurt in that short of a time. But
yeah,
I think that's the other thing that too, David, it's just kind of alarming. Is like you're going through the list, you're seeing these guys, and now you're looking at who's left, and it's like Elgton Jenkins is a great fit. Outside of that, like you're going to have to take someone's flawed. Either they're very old, or they're not a scheme fit, or they're better at this or that. They have huge injury flags, right? Like that's kind of what is the kind of panicky part about this, where it's like, man, I'm seeing a lot of good options, and to where at this point, it's like there's not many guys that can make you feel a lot better about the situation, even after day one.
Yeah, I mean, all of the guys that were potential, difference makers are all signed. They all got taken away, basically. So, like, the longer you wait, the less the chances are of you getting a player that's going to make a difference, at least on the surface, right? Obviously, everybody can have a bounce back year. People could perform better, no question. But on the surface, when you look around, the room is starting to look pretty empty. There's not a lot of options available out there that would be upgrades, which is what the Chargers so desperately, so clearly needed this offseason, because the last few were the same issues of the interior of the offensive line. They fixed the center position. I feel like that's an upgrade. Both guard spots, not an upgrade at all, at least not yet. And yes, free agency just started, so hopefully they can change the tune. But after day one, it doesn't seem like a very nice sheet of music at this point in time.
Yeah, and like I think that Cole Strange is better than the Mekhi Becton we saw last year. So like I think he can be an upgrade, but like, is a negligible upgrade enough? Right? Like he would have to just play so much better than he did last season for me to feel like they did enough there to really show me that they're committed to protecting Justin Herbert, which is what this is all about. Like you can get a Kevin Zeitler, right? Like you can get one of those guys, a Joel Bitonio's out there. These are 35-plus-year-old players, right, with their own injury issues at times, right? So, like, those are short-term fixes, and, maybe that still can work out for you. It's not like they can't. It's just the options get, smaller and smaller. Like, we talked about a guy like Chris Paul, a good pass protector, a really, really bad run blocker. Like, it doesn't feel like anything the Chargers have done till this point has showed us they're willing to do that, right?
Right.
Like, so, like, there are guys out there. We're still looking through other guys, too, but, like, it's drying up quickly. And all the other guys you're getting at this point are going to have their own red flags that are going to have their own kind of issues that are going to make it really hard to fully buy in that they're going to be great improvements over what you had. This is year 3 now. It's year 3. You didn't draft the pipeline to not have to spend these free agent dollars because you don't have options. You need like 9 to 10 players on the offensive line. You have like 5 right now. And you only feel really good about 2 or no, I'll give 3 of them, right? With Tyler Bionis. Yeah. After that, it's a bunch of huge question marks, and some of the top options are already off the board. But it's day 1. We're not overreacting. I'm not panicking. But obviously, there is still a time for retribution. There's still plenty of good players out there that could be signed. We do have a bonus show coming out later today to talk about the effects of losing Odafe Oweh and losing Zion Johnson. I miss Zion Johnson every more by the second, seeing how things are playing out right now. So make sure you guys are back here for that later by subscribing or following for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listening wherever you get your podcast from. And you can also find the show every day on all of our social media where we put the show posts out at Locked On LAC on Twitter, at Locked On Chargers on Instagram, and our Locked On Chargers Facebook page. If you want an ad-free audio version of the show, you can get that now in the Everydayer Club. And then we have a special because free agency is here, and so are we. Get 1 month free of the Everydayer Club with code FREEAGENCY, no spaces, now through March 15th. Go ad-free and keep this conversation going in the Locked On Chargers exclusive Discord, which you can find in the show notes to get involved with that. And I'm probably going to go melt down in there after this. Might be a little bit more of an R-rated reaction to day 1, but hey, it's fine. Like you can overreact. Things can change, but if they're going to change, they have to change quickly, and they have to show that they are committed to protecting Justin Herbert. And through one day, I don't feel it yet. So make sure you're back for the bonus show talking about the loss of Zion Johnson and Odafe Oweh, and maybe we'll be back tomorrow night with another live show, hopefully feeling a lot better about the situation. But that's going to wrap things up for tonight's show. Until next time, guys, take it easy and go Bolts.